Hey, board gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back in the Gumbo Pot. It's another episode of Gumbo Live episode number 155, the number one Facebook Live talk show dedicated to board gaming in Wall Lake, Iowa. And there's a reason we picked that town. We'll get to that in a second. Our special guest tonight, we're going to talk about it. We're going to make it a little surprise. Hit us up on social media or on Twitter or on Facebook or on Blue Sky at Board Game Gumbo, because we will be looking for your questions in the chat. I'm going to bring up Steve. Steve, it's Wall Lake, Iowa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wall Lake, Iowa. We're going to be talking about that. I am super excited because we have Ryan Reynolds, the star of Green Lantern and a little movie called Deadpool that's going to be, wait, he is the guest, right? You booked Ryan Reynolds? I asked for Ryan, right?
You got it 50-50 right.
We got Ryan?
Yeah, we got Ryan.
Oh, it's Ryan Hendrickson. Let's see if I have him here. There he is. Hey, Ryan.
Hello.
It's not Ryan Reynolds. It's not the star of Green Lantern and Deadpool, but we have Ryan Hendrickson all the way from Iowa via Canada. Is that right?
Yes, we're just outside of Toronto and Hamilton, Ontario, on a little family vacation up in the Northeast.
Now, Steve, I'm not familiar with Toronto, but I've heard it's near Montreal and New York City. Is that right?
It is get-toable from New York. We've done it as a summer vacation ourselves as a family, so have a great time up there. But it's a good, 9-10 hours for us.
Yeah.
Ryan, just for you, I did wear
Board Boys, yeah,
my Board Boys T-shirt, and
yes.
that's kind of how we met. But Ryan, for the people that haven't met you or haven't talked to you before, give us the elevator pitch. You know what that is. You're a board game designer. Who is Ryan Hendrickson?
Well, my full-time job is a farmer. I grow corn and soybeans in central Iowa. Live on a family farm that we've had for about 130 years or so. But in my free time, in the winter, I don't have a whole lot to do on the farm. So I kind of got into designing board games. I've been playing for years, and I just sort of had the premonition one time to maybe I could do this myself. So I started working on one, worked on it for a few months, took it to Protospiel and got some good feedback on that. Nothing ever came of that one, but it sort of got the juices flowing design wise. And then a couple of years ago, well, when was it? I don't know when it was. It was maybe 2021, I think, is when I decided I might try adapting a game that I know and love into a roll and write. And so that was Joan of Arc. It was a roll and write version of Orleans.
You're a big fan of Orleans?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. So I just thought, man, actually, I'll give a little bit of credit to it was
Stockhausen?
No, well, it was the Rajas of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers. So that was an adaptation.
Steve, our first mention of my favorite roll and write game of all time.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites even to this day. So I was playing that one, and it's an adaptation of another game that I also liked, the full version of Rajas. And I said to myself, well, maybe I can do this with one of my favorite games. So that's when I got started on that one. So I worked on that for a while, sent it over to Rainer Stockhausen. He played it, thought it had some potential. So he and I worked on it together for a little bit, and then we published it. So that sort of led to another one of Grand Austria Hotel. So I worked on that for a while.
We're big fans of Grand Austria Hotel here. Although, to be fair, we kind of like playing it online more than we do like playing in person because of the length and the fiddliness a little bit. You know what I'm talking about, I think. Right?
I know what you're talking about. So I worked on an adaptation of that one that I sent over to Mr. Luciani, and he liked it enough to say, let's pursue this. So we went ahead with that, and it was that one came out last year at Essen.
I know what Steve's thinking right now. Steve's thinking, Simone Luciani, Orleans, Grand Austria Hotel, Rogers the Ganges. Now we know why BJ invited Brian to talk to him on the show. This is hitting. This is like a list of all of my favorite games here that you're talking about. Favorite designers. He's literally just checking
them off.
I love Simone Luciani, but why is I'm one of the few people that I'm not that big a fan of Rogers the Ganges, yet I love Dice Charmers. I think it's a better version of the game. And I know I'm in the small minority probably on that, but what do you think? If you were trying to describe the differences and the similarities in the two games, or are you trying to sell people on those games? Steve, you've played both, right?
I have played Charmers. I have not played full Rajas.
Okay.
Okay.
Ryan, should he play full Rajas, or is he getting what he needs, as I say, with Dice Charmers?
I think there's certainly merit to having played both. There's a little bit more in the full version, as you could expect. There's as far as the tile laying, the map on the Dice Charmers, you're just marking here and there. But in the full version, you've actually got the tiles that you're placing, and you can rotate them to connect roads to certain bonuses and stuff. And that's something that you don't quite get in the roll and write version. So I would say, at least for that, there's a little bit to it. And Rajas also has some expansions that add a few more things, but I don't play that nearly as much as I'd like, but it's one of my favorites.
I'm checking something out because Steve, are you seeing that we're streaming on Facebook?
I had posted in our group for people to check, but I'm not looking at the Facebook version of things.
So YouTube is working.
Let me take a peek now.
Yeah, you do that if you don't mind, because I checked
sure,
YouTube and YouTube is working fine. But I'm not seeing any notices from Facebook, so I'm just trying to check it. Although my dashboard says it's working fine. So, yeah, Dice Charmers, you do miss out on the tile laying, but I think you still get the sense of that because of the way that you're moving all the connections through. It's not tiling itself, but it gives you the sense that you're doing that, don't you think?
A little bit, yeah.
And what I like more about it is that I guess I'm always attracted to games, especially roll and write games that have these, as Cam calls them, the combo wombo things, right?
Yep,
you hear
exactly.
TK and Cam and Rob talk about that all the time. And Dice Charmers has combos up the wazoo. It's why I like those loaded roll and writes from the Fleet Pools. If you've played French Quarter or Fleet the Dice Game or Three Sisters, the best things about those games are the ability to feel really clever when you put together, 8 or 10 or 12 actions in a row.
Yep, I've played it with my wife, and one time she says, "Are you sure you're done? Because you've been going on for several minutes. New actions here and there. You must be cheating or something."
Yeah, Cam was sharing a video. I don't know if you saw that today, but he was sharing a video of this YouTube streamer who's reenacting a part in one of the games that's like that, and his spouse or his girlfriend kept going, "Are you finished?" And he was like, "Oh, I haven't." Oh, he's playing Empires of the North, and he's like, "I have another apple, so I'm going to tap this card." Oh, yeah, I'm finished. Oh no, wait, and I've got, and he just kept going on, and the video lasts like 20 minutes of him just going through this mega turn in Empires of the North, and that's what I think. That's why I like Rajas and all these other combolicious games. Now, I haven't played Joan of Arc or High Season, I think it's called.
Yeah, High Season.
Are those combo-y type games or more just straight Euro, resource in a dice game?
There are some combos in there, so I would say you can't do well unless you're able to string some long turns together. But I wouldn't say there's never enough to lose track of. Like sometimes you do this and it leads to this, which leads to two other things, which leads to one or two other things itself, and you kind of lose track of where you are. I would say that, especially Joan of Arc, you might string 2 or 3 things together, but that's about it.
Steve, in the Fleet Pools games, the loaded roll and writes, there's a section in the corner of the notepad, and it's blank, and it's specifically to remind you if you have a couple of more actions. You're supposed to take notes there. And I have had to
you have to with Three Sisters. I know that. I've lost myself in that game a couple of times.
If not, you're going to miss an action or two.
Yep.
In Joan of Arc, we have it on the sheet where you're supposed to circle when you earn a bonus and then during your turn you can execute them in any order and cross them off as you execute them, so that if you look around your sheet and you see anything circled, you know, I can still do this on this turn. So
Steve, I'm curious, have you played High Season yet?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
it is on BGA.
Really?
Yeah, within the last few weeks. It was in beta for a while, and I think it might have its full release already. I'm not sure. I'm in a game with a couple of the board boys, Tim and Jake.
Oh yeah, Tim and Jake, TK. What's the playtime on both of the games? About the same?
Yeah. If you know the games and it's in front of you, you can play a 2-player game in 20-30 minutes at the very most.
All right.
Yep.
Very good.
All right, putting it on the list for BGG Con. I'm going to try both of those games out there, Ryan, because I think Rob's supposed to be there at BGG Con. So hopefully, are you a convention person? Do you get to go to conventions?
Not often. No, they're usually when I'm busy with work. So that's a no-go for me most of the time. So.
Summertime for farmers. That's the time when you're having to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
About the only time is right now, and this is when we have to take our family vacation because we don't have any other opportunities. So, yeah.
I don't know if Steve knows this. I come from a family of farmers, so my grandparents were the last of them. Well, actually, my uncle was the last one, but my dad got away from the farm. He went to law school, and we never went back. But I mean, as far back as we knew, you know, about 100, 150 years of farming over there. So we were soybeans and rice and cotton back in the day. But I am curious. So we've seen games with all these different crops, but I haven't seen a soybean game.
Soybeans?
At least in Louisiana, we call them poverty peas. Is that why? Is it because soybeans are so tough to make money on?
I guess they're not very interesting.
I think it is. One of my favorite games is sitting right behind me. It's called Fields of Green. I don't know if you've ever played that one.
Nope, never played that one.
Steve, you've played Fields of Green, right? No?
I have not played Fields of Green, no.
Okay, well, both of you guys need to check that out if you like any kind of crops, because it's all about. God, this theme is going to sound so dry, but it's all about putting together fields of crops and irrigating them and producing more crops than everybody else.
Right.
And yet it sounds so dry when I describe it, but it's really a lot of fun. I mean, it's.
Do you have to feed your farmers or they die?
Oh, you have to. It's been a long time since I played, but you have to make sure you have enough water each round, or you can lose some of your crops. So, and making sure you have the right. You're either irrigating them by putting out pipes, or you're putting wells out. So, that theme sounds so dry, but I promise you, it's actually a lot of fun. What'd you find out, Steve? Anything?
It looks like things are running. I did post in the private chat that there's a link up on Facebook. I can see that it's clickable for video. I just don't know that there was any announcement well in advance of this. So this may be something that people see after the fact rather than interacting with live.
Yeah, just making sure. Sometimes it happens where you get that server burp with Facebook, but YouTube's working just fine.
Yep. Cool.
All right, so that's High Season and Joan of Arc. What attracts you to making these roll and writes?
Well, honestly, it wasn't so much that I love playing roll and writes, or I just thought that it was a design space that I thought that I could work in to get a start. You know, just say, hey, what do you think of this game? Send it to a publisher. And, I had pretty good luck on my first couple. So that's sort of what I went with.
And let me get this right. So were you part of so many of the designers that I meet are part of a design group, and that's how they got it started. You got this started kind of just on your own?
In my basement. I just, in my free time, I don't watch a lot of television. So sometimes I just go down into the basement and work at a table, and at first I have a whiteboard and I just kind of scribble on it, and I say, what would it look like if Orleans was a roll and write? And I kind of have this section here and this section here. And it started out with dice, but it turned out pretty quickly that wasn't going to work. And since Orleans is a bag builder anyway, I thought, well, why don't you have the random choice pulling out of a bag instead of rolling dice? And it just made a lot of sense to do that. And it sort of snowballed from there. And
so it's still, as our friend Jake and Danielle from Draft Mechanic used to say, it's a rando writer, but instead of dice, it's bags.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Curious question for you then, Ryan. As you were doing this, you said with Orleans was the one that you thought you wanted to see if you could adapt
Yes,
the theme.
that's the first one that I designed that I then pitched to a publisher that liked it. It
That was
wasn't
where
the
I was
first
going to
one
ask.
that I ever designed. Yeah.
So you said you ended up talking with and working with Stockhausen, and then
Mhm.
maybe later Luciani on the others. But it was reaching out to the publisher first. How was that cold calling a publisher? What was your process for thinking that? When you get to the point where you think I've got something, I'm going to reach out directly to a publisher because I think this has got something. This has got potential.
Well, to be honest, I had no idea if it had potential or not. I just thought I've done as much as I can do with this to make it playable, and you know, I like to work out the math in things. You know, I'm no Knizia or anything like that, but there's the picture there.
There it
But
is.
but I think a good sense of you know, economies, like, is this too much of one thing, is this not enough, how do we make this flow a little better, do I insert a little bit more money into this economy or take a little out, that kind of thing. So I thought that I had a pretty playable, balanced game that I thought at the very least they would say, yeah, this has potential. It may not be polished, but they could see it being a final product at some point.
How
So-
close did it look to what we're seeing on the screen?
Surprisingly close.
Really? Okay.
So,
Are you
yeah.
an artist or a graphic designer by hobby or
I'm
trade?
not, I shouldn't say no. What I did
Functionally, you mean it looked the same?
functionally, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't do much of the graphic design. In fact, in order to make my prototype, I scanned images of the game. I scanned my board of the game that I own, and I made little icons with Photoshop or whatever free version I have on my computer. And but functionally, like, the map is essentially the same. The look of the bank, and which bank is the thing right in the middle. The warehouse, which is where the goods are there.
Yeah, I can see that.
All of that is basically what my prototype was. The
And
number,
the map looks very close.
yes, exactly. And so the main thing that we did in development was add and change some of the buildings, which are in the lower left there on the sheet or on the cards.
Okay.
And so Reiner had a few pretty good ideas that made more cards and more variety on top of the prototype that I sent him. And then
you're still using the little tiles that we've seen in the that we used to pull out of the bag.
Yep, exactly. But those are about 3 times as big. They're about the size of a $50. They're pretty big.
Okay.
Yep, they fit in the bag. Yeah, but I was surprised how close the final product was to the prototype, because I've listened to podcasts about design for years, and I hear these stories about, oh, this game's been in development for 3 or 4 years. I'm like, well, does it really take that much? I mean, because we probably only developed for a couple of months, and tried it as many times as we could play, but tweaking things here and there, but it didn't change a lot. Just
following up on that though, Stegmeyer used to always say, if you're going to get into design, start with just a little card game. They're easy to iterate, they're easy to produce. You sort of did that in a way, right, Steve? He started with a roll and write, which has a lot less components than you have to deal with in one of these big productions.
Yep.
Is that a secret, do you think? Or maybe for designers trying to start out, maybe, as they always say, if you're going to eat an elephant, do it one bite at a time, and you started with the smallest bite.
Yeah, and it certainly helped that there was a fully developed base game that I could draw ideas from. So when I was designing Joan of Arc, I went through each system in Orleans and said, how could this be on a sheet of paper? This map could easily be drawn on. You draw some roadways and some waterways. The little houses that you place in Orleans could just be little houses on the map that you fill in when you build there. So, and I went through each system and said, how can this be on a piece of paper and only on a piece of paper? And I sort of just went through the whole thing, and then there it was, and tweaked it as I went.
You got something, Steve? I'm definitely curious.
That was what I was most interested in. It was how did it get to that transition part? Who did you say reach out through their normal website channels? Did you put it out?
Like the
did you put it out on
actual-
BGG for people to give some feedback on, or did you go straight to the horse's mouth?
No, I went straight to him. I got his email off the DLP website. I wrote and said, I've got a prototype. Are you interested in taking a look?
Very
and
cool.
I sent it over. He played it. He got back to me and said, let's do this. And that was
that helps if the designer who already has the relationship with the publisher, right, was like, I'm just going to cut out the middleman. I'm going to go right to the designer. You know?
Yeah. Yes, I did that also with Mr. Luciani, and then with Alexander Pfister, I went straight to him. In fact, I don't know if you want to get into this yet, but when I contacted Alex, he goes by Alex, it actually wasn't for Maracaibo at all. I made a roll and write version of Great Western Trail. I played with him online on Tabletop Simulator. I made a little mod that he could play with me online. He liked it, so he kind of took it to the publisher. I think Plan B Games has the rights to Great Western Trail. So this was about when they were going to release the second and third versions, Argentina and New Zealand. So they were working on that pretty heavily at the time. So they weren't about to start a roll and write. So he got back to me and said, well, they're not really interested in this, at least now. So I said, what about doing Maracaibo instead? So at the time, we were thinking about a Maracaibo roll and write of some sort. And so we thought about it. I pitched some ideas to him. He had a few ideas that went back to me. And so I sort of just put something together. I'm like, let's see what this might look like. And pretty quickly we decided this won't work as a roll and write. It's going to have to be a little bit more than that. So we said, what if we made the map out of cards? And it sort of just went from there. And then it's turned out what it is now. You know, it took us a little bit longer than the roll and writes, just because it's a bigger game than that. But we worked on it for 6 months or so, and we're pretty happy with the way it came out.
So Ryan, the games that you're talking about are all, good medium weight traditional type Euros. Is that your wheelhouse?
That's what I enjoy playing. That's kind of where I think I would be strongest at. It's funny. I played with Rob and a couple other guys at a meetup a couple weeks ago, and we played a Lacerda game. I think it was the Inventions or something like that.
Right, Inventions.
Okay. That was a little too much for me. I mean, I could process it and I could play it, but boy, that wasn't sort of what my brain was ready to handle. I
always enjoy playing Lacerda games, and it's exactly what you say. The first time I play it, I'm just pushing buttons and watching what happens, like pulling gears and seeing when I hit this lever, what's going to come out of this mousetrap. But like winning the game, I have no clue. No clue.
No expectation to win. I just wanted to get through without embarrassing myself to the other guys.
The worst thing about a Lacerda game is they're generally, the mechanics themselves are generally pretty simple, right?
Yep.
But there's always one rule that says something like in Lisboa, it says, and if you have nothing else to do, you can discard a card for a coin and another card or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And you never want to take this one. Like, it's in the rule book. And you never want to take this one. And Vital posts on there, this is not an actual action. This is like if you have nothing else to do,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
this is your saving grace. You're going to do this to get a coin and get a card. And when I play his games, whatever that rule is, and it's in every one of his games, that's my whole. I win if the first time I play his game and I don't have to
Don't have to do that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that's a win, Steve.
Don't have to do the one thing he told you not to do.
Not to do.
I didn't embarrass myself.
That's a low bar for success, BJ. I just don't want to do what Vital says was the absolute wrong thing to do, and then I feel like I've won.
I mean, it's a pretty low bar, but if you play enough Lacerda games, I mean, there's just sometimes where you just box yourself in, and that's it. You know, God, I don't want that to happen. And so far, I haven't had to do that in Lisboa, so I count it as a win. That I may not win Lisboa, but at least I'm not taking that pretty bad action.
Yeah, I was cruising along, and I thought, well, I'm doing much better than I thought I would. And then on the last action, which I think there's like 13 or 14 actions or something like that, I literally did nothing because I couldn't get that one more thing to do this one more thing, and so I just said pass.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that is so disappointing, right? When you don't set up that last turn, it's just.
Yep.
It's so in any type of game. So Pirates of Maracaibo.
Yep.
Steve, I've never played Maracaibo. Have you played it?
I have not. I've played a lot of Fister games, but not Maracaibo.
The only thing I know about Maracaibo is that, from what I understand, it's if you've played Great Western Trail, we're going to remember that that it's sort of going around like Great Western Trail is going around the town and stopping in different spots, and we're building up the town as we do that. So it's sort of a big giant version of a rondel, and I've heard that Maracaibo also kind of has that, but Pirates does it a little different. So tell me, Ryan, the backstory. Were you a pretty big fan of Maracaibo, or is this your attempt to take what you liked out of it and maybe emphasize that more than the stuff that you didn't like?
Okay, so I was a fan of Maracaibo. Unfortunately, I play a lot of games with my wife, and she didn't really care for it that much.
Oops.
Well, she likes other Fister games. She really loves Great Western Trail, but Maracaibo didn't click for her.
Boone Lake?
Yeah, it's Boone Lake. That's another one she was a little so-so on. Anyway, that doesn't matter. The point was I did like it, but didn't get a chance to play it very much. Then when we started working on this, I guess I wouldn't say I was trying to change it at all. We were just trying to, I would say, make a different version that was, in the same thematic universe, but a lighter game that was a little bit easier to teach, not as long of a playtime, and just we thought it would just fill a different category as far as gamers. We thought this could appeal to a little bit lighter crowd. Not that it's a featherlight game. It's still medium for sure, but it is definitely lighter than Maracaibo.
Steve, the elevator pitch I heard today, I was listening to a podcast that was talking about it, and it's a quicker game, easier to set up, and has pirates. What do you think, Ryan? Is that a decent approximation?
I would say yes. So as far as setup, if you've got the playmat that comes from Capstone, that makes the setup even easier because it's got the spaces already laid out for you. All
right, so here we've got a shot of the cards on the left side, right?
Yep.
Can you blow up the image, VJ?
Yeah, let me see if I can get you a big version of that. How's that?
Yeah, so that doesn't have the playmat. Not that you have to have the playmat, but
no playmat on this one?
Yep. So if you see, you're kind of laying the cards out on the table, and they are they're staggered. So each card on the left will touch 2 on the right. So that's how you determine your movement. You can move. You're moving from left to right, and you just sort of hop from card to card. You can move 1 to 3 spaces, or 1 to 3 cards on each of your turns.
So that's a little different. In Maracaibo, you can move like up to 6 or 7 spaces, if I remember right.
Yes, that's correct. And there's some branching paths in Maracaibo, but it's more like you can take the north side of this island or the south side of this island, and you'll end up in the same place. Well, in Pirates, we lay out, I think it's 29 cards, maybe, and depending on where you put some of the obstacles, which are those cardboard, the gold, emerald, and pearl islands.
Okay.
So what we're looking at now is just the standard layout. But in the rule book, there's some alternate layouts, and we even went as far as to say, as long as you keep to the basic shape of the Caribbean, you can set the map up however you'd like. So you can use those cardboard pieces, the gold, emerald, and pearl islands, to sort of make obstacles. You can make bottlenecks, or you can put them all in the corner and have a wide open map. You can.
Steve, I think he's referring to those. See the one up on the upper left, and the one in the middle, and the one all the way to the upper right. That's what you're talking about, Ryan.
Yep, those are the treasure islands. So
okay,
what those are mainly obstacles, but also that's where when you gain treasures, you take them from that island, and there's a kind of a scoring track on each of those. As you take treasures from the island, you're making the value go down. But there's also ways, for instance, landing on some of the locations to then increase it back up. Or there are also some actions you can take to increase the value. So it's a little bit of a mini market for each of the treasures. You want to take them, but you also want the value to stay high. So it's a little push and pull.
And one of the things that intrigues me also, if I remember right, as you're going on these paths, you're interacting with the spaces that you land on, but then you're also flipping over from the deck for people that come behind you. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. So there's three types of cards. There's improvement cards, which are the ones that you can land on and simply purchase. Whatever the cost is in the corner, you pay that cost and you take that and put it in front of you.
So we see those two that are right next to that island in the bottom left. Those are two that you could actually just purchase, right?
Yep, exactly. So some of those are immediate actions. Some of them are ongoing benefits that you can use with future actions.
Little engine building.
Yep, exactly. And some of them are even end game scoring conditions. Like if you have this many pearls at the end of the game, you get some additional points. So those are the improvement cards, and those are the ones that are replaced with cards from the tier 2 deck as soon as they're purchased. So someone coming in behind you can see this new card and say, oh wow, I would like to go to that new card, and they've got first shot at it. There are also some the cards with the sort of the whitish light gray background. Those are called residences. So those are for people that have played Maracaibo, the base game. Those are a little bit like the prestige buildings, where you can invest in those, and each player can do those. You don't take them in front of you. You just put a marker on them saying that you've purchased those. And those are very expensive, but they provide a lot of end game points. And then the third type of card is the location. So those are the ones that look like an island, and they've got sort of a banner over the middle of them.
Oh, so like the two that are on the other side of that gray one with the black ship on it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, those ones are their locations. So that's where you do most of your main actions. So you can do ship upgrades at those, and then you also do a main action such as raiding or moving your explorer, which without going into too much detail, the explorer is on the right side of the board there. You've got a guy that kind of moves through the jungle.
Oh yeah, I see that
in Maracaibo.
And that represents the island of Maracaibo, right?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So they start in the city and they kind of work inland or around that lake there. And the further you move your explorer, the more benefits you can get from that.
So it's like going through the Caribbean, Steve, and you're either interacting with other pirates and I guess battling them and taking their loot, right? Or or landing in the ports and trading things and working with them.
It's abstracted a little bit, but yes, that's the idea, that you go into port and maybe you raid some gold from whoever the locals are there. So
Right.
you take it back to your hideout. So the player boards are meant to look like hideouts where you've got places to bury some loot on your island there.
I forgot to check who did the artwork in here. And did you have any say-so over that?
The artwork was done. I'm not sure. You'd have to check the BGG listing for the cover art, but Christian Fiore is the one that does the graphic design and the art on the cards.
Okay. Christian Fiore and Odysseus Stamaglu.
Yeah, he or she must be the one that did the cover art.
And I guess DLP was doing all that. Not you didn't have any say-so over that, right?
We got to preview all the materials to just make sure it all looked correctly, but I didn't have anything involved with the art direction, if that's
right.
what you're. Yeah.
And then the end result, I guess, is that, and you do this, if I remember right, 3 times, right? You'll send your ships through the Caribbean, and the end is when you get to Maracaibo. Is it like first to Maracaibo, or is it when everybody gets to Maracaibo?
Okay, so there's a space before Maracaibo that we call the Gulf, and it is you must stop there. So the first player that gets there stops there, does the Gulf action, which is for the most part a more powerful action than most of the locations. And then at that point, the rest of the players take one more turn in which they could also reach the Gulf. They don't have to, but they could. And then after everyone's taken that turn, the player that went to the Gulf first then moves into Maracaibo for another action, which is gain a certain number of points and do a ship upgrade. And then the round resets with the next player in player order. So then it works that way, with the exception of the third round where you would finish the round so that everyone has the same number of turns.
So the Gulf is Kansas City.
Yes, kind of.
Yeah,
to some extent. Except not everybody gets there that same way.
Yeah, it's more similar to Maracaibo than it is Great Western Trail in that respect, because in Maracaibo you sail to Havana and whoever makes it there, or is Havana the starting spot? Now I forget. Doesn't matter. But anyway, when they get there, the whole group resets, not just the person that got there. So
it's kind of a more linear, but with branches, rondel. So it's more like it's a full path, and then the typewriter comes back to the carriage turns back to the start for the next round.
So what we think is interesting about it is, so the locations never change. When they're dealt out, that's going to be the loop for the game. So you could play the entire game jumping from location to location and never make any improvements. You could do that. I've never seen anybody do it, but you could. So
not a winning strategy.
Probably not a winning strategy. So that loop could be the same every time. But what we think is interesting is all these improvement cards around it that give you other choices while you're making your loop. Well, this first location is really good for me, so I'm going to hit it all 3 rounds. But my second turn in the round, maybe I'll go up here and pick up this improvement card, or maybe I'll go down here and go to the second location. And so as the board changes, you have more and more opportunities to change your loop, which is something that you can't really do as much in Maracaibo. So we thought that was at least an improvement on the base game.
Jojo had a question for you. So he wanted to know if the story decks in the original Maracaibo, and whether there's a mechanic like that in Pirates, and if so, how extensive and replayable is it? I don't know that there are any. Were you able to bring in the story decks at all?
There's no story decks in this one. I would say like our tier 2 deck is in the 40s, and you usually don't go through anywhere close to those during the course of a game. So you will see different cards every time you play.
Okay.
But what is I think more interesting is the way the locations are dealt out and which residence cards are out there. The residents are the end-game scoring cards that you can see from the beginning. So an experienced player can look at the board, see sort of see a path, see which residences are out there, and they can choose a route that they would like to go down at the very beginning, and that will be different every single game.
Okay.
So while it does lack any story, it is, I would say, nearly infinitely replayable.
Is this the big coming out party for Pirates at Gen Con, or is it going to be a bigger release at Essen? Do you know?
So it came out at Essen last year in Europe.
Okay.
So DLP did an English language version and I think a German. So Games Up is the originating publisher, but
Okay.
they partner with DLP for a little wider distribution.
I don't know Games Up. Steve, are you familiar with Games Up?
No, not at all.
So Games Up is a small company. Ralph Bienart. He's the owner operator. It's basically just a one-man show, and Alex and I have been, I would say, it's not like we're co-publishers, but we're helping a lot with the development. We're not just the designers; we are also doing the development.
And Games Up is a German publisher?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in Germany.
And then DLP and Capstone's doing the US.
Yes. So yes, Ralph has partners all over the world. They've got a Spanish, Italy, French, all these that are all coming out about now. So it's been out for 9 months in Europe in English and German, but now in North America it's coming out through Capstone, and most of the rest of Europe is getting it now in their own language.
So did you get a chance to go to Essen to see the big coming out?
Nope,
No.
right in the middle of harvest. So
Yeah,
no go.
That's a tough one.
Yep.
That's a dream of me and Steve's to take a trip to Essen
Yep.
Absolutely.
someday on that. So Steve, any other questions? It sounds like this is there's a lot of changes. I mean, it seems like these would be complementary in a collection, not one outweighing the other,
Yeah. Is it multi-use cards? Is the back of the cards kind of like in Port Royal? Is that money?
Nope. So
Okay. It just has that look of it.
Okay. No, those are just if you're looking at the back of those cards, those are quest cards. So they're sort of like in-game objectives. Like you have a couple of them face up, and there are certain actions you can take either at locations or by making improvements, or even on your shipboard, where you can pick up these quests along the way. So they work a little bit differently than the quests in the base game, but they're a little bit, I would say, you're able to do them without the multi-use. So the only extra thing on these cards, besides just the action or victory points they provide, is there's also an income that happens between rounds. So in the lower left, if you can see that, most of the improvement cards will provide an income of either points or doubloons that you'll gain between them.
Okay. And did it make it more accessible to your loved ones? Did it make a Maracaibo that's going to get to the table in your house?
Well, I have a 12-year-old son that I taught how to play this. He's played with me a couple times so far, and he beat me on the second time. I wouldn't say that I necessarily let him win, but I wanted the game to be competitive. So we he was able to process the rules just fine, and so I guess yes, it is accessible to at least 12-year-olds. So
good.
And Peak will.
I've never had the luxury of letting family win because they beat me on a regular basis anyway. It's not like I'm going easy on them.
Well, I wouldn't say I let him win, but I was assisting him on nearly every turn.
Good.
You encourage the experience.
Yes.
All right, and Pirates of Maracaibo is available at Gen Con. Also, I know that some of the guys in the Gumbo have been saying that their pre-orders are on the way, so we should be. Hopefully, we'll be playing this pretty soon. And I see there's even an expansion for it, maybe even one or two commanders and new figureheads. Is that something you can get at Gen Con, or is that something that's coming out?
The new figureheads, I think, are being sold with the game at at Gen Con. If you're ordering through Capstone, they have a bundle where you can get the new figureheads and the playmat. So the what you just showed, that's an upcoming expansion that's not quite out yet.
Oh, okay.
We're working on that as we speak. In fact, right before I came on, Alex and I were talking last minute adjustments before we submit some of the files. So that's coming soon, but it's not available at Gen Con.
Commanders. Oh, this is looking pretty good. Pirates of Maracaibo. I will tell you, Steve, I kind of dug around getting ready for the show, watched a bunch of reviews. I have yet to find a bad review. Ryan, you guys are getting some really good, like 8.5s, some big numbers from a lot of people that I like. Johannes and Sonova. Steve, I know you like that channel too.
Yes.
They both gave it just the highest marks. So
excellent.
Chris and Wendy Yee. Another couple that gave it. Cam was making it sound like it's his game of the century. So it's tough to tell with Cam though. When he likes a game, he gets really excited about it. So.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we hope players like it. So
we'll be getting it played as soon as Jeremy gets his copy. Jeremy and I think JoJo is getting a copy too. So we're going to be getting Pirates, and we'll be looking for Commanders to come out whenever you guys say it's ready, right?
Yep. It hopefully, if we get all the files in on time, it could be available in Europe as soon as October, and then Capstone said that they would likely do it early next year. So we'll see. And that's please don't quote me on that. Is not official.
Okay. BJ Morgan, I've got Ryan here, who's the designer of Pirates of Maracaibo, and hey, it's a board game show. What does that mean, Steve?
It means we got to play a game.
We got to play a board game. So tonight, because we had to kind of cut it short a little bit tonight, make sure he still has enough battery to finish the show, Steve. We decided we'd do the
Yes.
Envie game. You want to tell Ryan how it's played?
Sure. So the gist of the Envie game is that you get to know something we don't. We got to try and figure it out. It's kind of like board game 20 questions. You think of the game that if you had the perfect setup, the time that you wanted, the people ready, everything's ready to roll, and you've got a copy of the game. It might be like a Grail game that you don't have, but you're dying to have. If everything was right, what was the game that you drop everything and play right now? Don't tell us. We're gonna have to try and figure it out by asking you, short answer or yes, no questions. If we're going to be as close to 20 questions as possible, we'll take turns asking questions. I don't know who we've got in chat to guess along. If there's nobody guessing along, it's just going to be a race between me and BJ to see if you don't stump us.
And if there's a tie, Steve wins.
If there's a tie, there's a simple rule. BJ always loses.
BJ always loses. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. So you feel like you have the rules of the game there, Ryan?
Yep, I think I can handle that.
All right, good.
You got something in mind?
I got a game in mind.
First question
right.
I always ask is whether it's competitive or cooperative. And I'm going to guess it's a competitive game.
Definitely competitive. Yep.
Okay.
Steve, your turn.
I got to try and think about this in a way that's going to narrow things.
Well, that narrows it down to about 135,000 games.
It would have narrowed it down more if he said cooperative.
It would have.
Yeah. Has it been put out in the last, say, 5 or so years?
It has not.
It's an older game.
A little bit older game.
Does it have miniatures?
No.
I kind of knew that one there.
Yeah.
Based on our conversation here, I wasn't expecting miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a game that would be something that you think of as playable in less than an hour?
Oh, the old 1 hour wonder?
The 1 hour wonder that BJ talks about.
I would say it's not likely to be played in under an hour.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so good clarification. For a first play, you're not going to get this thing under an hour, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, and you may not have a shot if you've played it as well, but it's probably over. But maybe not by a ton.
It's not a marathon, but it's definitely over an hour.
Okay.
Does it have a European designer?
Yes, it does.
Oh, we kind of knew that though, right, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Kind of figured. Yep, kind of figured.
So to recap for the chat crew, we've got a competitive game designed by at least one European. It's going to take over 60 minutes for your first play. and it has no
older than 5 years.
and older than 5 years. Yeah.
Okay. Was it something that we would have recognized as being an award winner or a nominee?
Oh, that's a great one. Great question.
Award-winning. I don't think it won any awards that I know of,
Okay.
but I would say it would be like if you looked at a list of Oscar winner or Oscars that the best movie not to win an Oscar. You know what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah.
Should have been nominated,
Okay.
was overlooked.
It was, I would say, criminally overlooked.
Criminally overlooked.
Okay. All right.
Oh man.
That's interesting.
Steve. So we got it's older than 5 years.
Let's just say if they redid the voting, it would have gone a different way.
Okay. So it's something that has grown on the gaming world, perhaps, and they've realized their mistake.
I think so, yes.
Oh man, it sounds like he's describing Concordia. Was it Concordia?
That is correct.
Whoa!
Oh
yes!
man.
2014. It did not win. It lost to Istanbul.
Yep.
And it's criminally. Look, I've played both games, and Istanbul's a fine game. I'm not dogging it, but I mean, it's a better game.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a better game. It should have won the. It should have won the.
Yeah.
That was the
Kenner.
Spiel was at the Kenner that year.
I think it was the Kenner Spiel.
Yeah, it should have won the Kenner
Yeah.
Spiel. When he said criminally overrated, and if the votes were counted today, it would have won. Yeah, that's where I kind of thought.
Yeah.
Concordia. Are you a big fan of Concordia?
Yeah, it's my wife and I's favorite. We've played it dozens.
You can ask Steve. For
Fantastic.
many years was my favorite game of all time, but I like Beyond the Sun a little better now. But given the choice, I mean, it would be tough to pick.
It's definitely top 5 for me.
Yeah.
Definitely top 5, maybe 3.
Great.
Yeah, Castles of Burgundy is the only one that came from way down to where Steve, you and I played it so much together. We probably, what are we knocking on 70 or 80 plays?
Wow.
Oh, at least. And if we had a way to do it better online with Concordia, I mean, now Steam is there, but we had we at least had Boîte à Jeux where we could be playing that on a regular basis online, and then that seems to have fallen apart, unfortunately.
Kelly Jean checking in. Kelly, we had an issue with Facebook at the start. So unfortunately, which is where most of the viewers come in, is from Facebook. So yeah, I guess the chat crew wasn't a big one tonight, but that's okay. We're going to post this up to YouTube and let people find out all about Pirates of Maracaibo. But the big winner tonight, BJ finally wins an Envie game. It's probably been years since I've beaten Steve or the chat crew with Concordia, a fantastic choice.
Well, BJ, beating me is not an accomplishment. The reason that you're also hard to lose to the chat group when there isn't one. So
and the Gumbo Overlord.
Good shot. The Gumbo Overlord was not here. Verla would have been in with you on Concordia. Concordia was coming for me in the next guess. You beat me to it.
So the DJ Bell's at Gen Con right now, and the Gumbo Overlord had something else to do. So you just had me and Steve tonight, and that gives me a fighting chance at winning. At winning.
What is it that makes Concordia so good for you?
I hold my own with Castles of Burgundy with you. We have some pretty good.
No. You better than hold your own. But tell us, Ryan, what is it that makes Concordia so fabulous for you? What is it that really makes it? We agree with you, but tell the rest of the world that's maybe missed out still. What are they missing out on?
Well, what I think it does best is it has incredible depth with very little complexity. Mm-hmm. So you can teach the game in a matter of minutes by saying, play a card and do what it says. It's just that simple. The architect, you can move your what are they called? I forget the name.
Your traders, your
colonists.
Colonists, right.
Move your colonists and build on adjacent cities. And when you're teaching someone, it sounds so simple, but man, you can really plan out. I can do this turn, this the next turn, this the following turn, slap down 4 cities, and away I go. And I just love the forward planning of it, but I also love, my opponent just did this. I need to shift gears and do something else very quickly. And it has both in my opinion, it has both a long-term strategy and a little bit of tactics in it as well.
Agreed.
Yep, tactics and strategy in the same game. Yep.
And you won't be overwhelmed with choices because the choices are what you can hold in your hand.
Yep.
The choices dwindle until you have to say, well, it's time for me to wrap them back up again and recollect.
I still remember the first time playing it with my son Jack at Dice Tower Con 2017. I still remember that game to this day because I remember looking at Jack about halfway through. The guy that taught it to us, Max, had said, we're going to do this thing. You don't have to do this again. We're going to do the scoring about halfway through just so you can understand the scoring because you're not going to understand it. I just want you to play the cards. Don't worry about the final score. We'll figure that out at the halfway point. And then after that, I want you to, try to play, which was brilliant because that's exactly what we did. And I remember looking at Jack going, wow, this might be one of the most elegant big games I've ever played. I mean, I played elegant small games, but this one felt like a small game in a big package. And yet it was so intuitive. And so maybe the Mercator card is maybe if I remember right, that's the name of it.
Yep.
It might be the hardest one. The trading aspect, people sometimes struggle, but everything else people get right away,
Yep.
You're right, except for the scoring, the idea of there is set collection and scoring based on different, what the card is linked to on the board.
Right.
But once people wrap their heads around that, there's no going back.
People that come from
hooked.
Blood Rage are thinking, well, I've got pieces all over the board. I should be in first. Why am I in last place? Because you didn't buy a single card the whole game. You're not going to win. You didn't score any points. It's that trying to build your engine, and then you got to run the engine and start buying some cards that match up to what the engine they built. Oh, I love it. Also, Steve, one of the greatest things is the fact that the system itself is so expandable. And that's just a brilliant thing. It's like Ticket to Ride. I think one of the reasons why everybody likes Ticket to Ride so much, even though you don't get all the other ones, you like the idea that there are so many maps out there. Memoir 44, same way. That's why I got so into Memoir 44 because there was so many maps out there. Well, the same thing with Concordia. I mean, every time he comes out with a new map, I just want to get it and try what's that little tweak that he's thrown in this time.
Tight maps, sprawling maps, waterways in Germany, fish in Crete, I think.
Yep.
There's always a nice little wrinkle in there.
Tiles.
Yeah,
I love the forum tiles. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we always play with the forum tiles. We like those.
Forum tiles and
salsa.
Salsa. Yeah. Forum tiles and salsa. Definitely want to throw that in. All right. Well, that is an excellent choice. Concordia, Steve and I both approve. That's the Envie game presented by our friends at Game Toppers LLC. Don't forget, make your game nights a showstopper when you play on a Game Topper. And Steve, they've got that Kickstarter 4.5 going on right now. Berkey's got all kinds of specials. He's got those beautiful looking rails. He's got the brand new terrain mats, and he's got a bunch of new mats out there, plus a bunch of specials. If you want to get a full Game Topper system for about 50% off, this is your chance to do it right there in the Kickstarter. So make sure you go check that out. All right, board gamers, that's it for another episode of Gumbo Live. I want to thank my guest, Ryan Hendrickson, all the way from Iowa via Toronto, the designer of Pirates of Maracaibo. Thank you for taking time to come out and chat with me and Steve.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
If people have any questions that we missed, and I mean, clearly, Steve, you asked every important question that could be asked, but just in case we missed one, how do they get in touch with you, Ryan, if they have some questions? Are you a BGG guy, a BGG user?
I'm on BGG. You can send me a message on there. I'm not on a lot of social media, so I kind of stay away from that. I don't want to.
Good man.
Don't want to lead people that way because I may never see it. So
BGG.
Yep, BGG. You can just click on my my username and send me a message if you have any questions. I'm pretty in the forums as far as answering rule questions or anything like that. Something that comes up, I can clarify if anybody has questions.
Very good.
Before we close, I do have to ask you. I've always wanted to ask a designer this. Do you get excited whenever you see people commenting about the game? Because we had Jason Dinger, a friend of ours who designed Captains of the Gulf, and at the first year he was so excited. He would jump in and answer all the questions, and then after that first year, people kept asking questions, and it's like after a while it becomes kind of a job,
Yeah, well,
where are you in that stage?
I'm still in the honeymoon stage as far as I want people to like the game. So if I can be of any help answering questions to make their experience better, I'm happy to do it.
Well, Jason is still that way. He'll still teach you the game. He'll teach you the game and not even play it. He'll teach 4 people how to play the game and have just as much fun watching people. So always hold on to that, Ryan, that love. You did what all of us armchair board gamers, we're all envious of you. You had an idea and you made it stick. So congratulations, man.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Well done.
All right. Make sure to like our page, Facebook page, facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, and the YouTube channel. Helps us get the word out about all the upcoming shows. This is the last show of the season for us, Ryan. We'll start again after Gen Con. But next week, we're back in the Gumbo Pot. Hopefully, I'll see Steve in the Gumbo Pot. We'll be playing some games. We'll be playing your games live at twitch.tv/BoardGameGumbo every other Tuesday night. I'm BJ from Board Game Gumbo. And for Steve and for Ryan, until next time, les bon temps roulé.
Bye all.
Bye.